Zurich. Zurich charges you $4,000 per year to own a car in the city center. That's not by accident. Switzerland's financial capital discovered that making driving expensive creates something remarkable, a city where 70% of trips happen without cars. Zurich's tram system carries more passengers per kilometer than London's underground. The secret? Every street corner has a tram stop within 300 meters. Your morning coffee costs $6, but your monthly transit pass costs $70. The city literally prices cars out of existence while making alternatives irresistible. Banking executives worth millions take trams to work because parking costs more than their suits. Zurich proves that wealth doesn't require wheels when public transport moves faster than traffic. The Swiss discovered something American cities refuse to accept. When public transport outperforms private cars, people choose trains over traffic. Zurich's pedestrian zones generate 40% more retail revenue, and after the Old Town banned cars, sales doubled. The city operates 15 tram lines with near-perfect on-time performance. Rush hour in Zurich means standing room only on trams, not gridlock on highways. Oslo turned its waterfront from industrial wasteland into Europe's most envied urban beach. Remember when cities built walls between residents and water? Oslo demolished theirs. The Aker Brygge transformation cost $2 billion, but generated $8 billion in property value increases. They moved cargo operations 15 kilometers south and replaced oil tanks with opera houses. The result? Apartment prices jumped 400% within walking distance of the fjord. Oslo created something impossible, a Nordic city where people swim in January. The harbor temperature hits 18 degrees Celsius in summer thanks to shallow water design. Families now gather where ships once dumped ballast water. Oslo learned that waterfronts are too valuable for trucks when they could house humans. The city removed 3 kilometers of elevated highways that blocked harbor views. Construction waste from demolished industrial buildings became the foundation for new public beaches. Tourists now spend $300 million annually visiting what used to be Europe's largest oil storage facility. The harbor now hosts year-round festivals, generating constant activity. Munich built 180 beer gardens because Germans understand something Americans forgot. Cities need outdoor living rooms. Each beer garden serves 8,000 people on summer weekends. These aren't bars with patios. They're neighborhood squares disguised as drinking establishments. The Augustiner Bräu Beer Garden covers 4 city blocks and has its own tram stop. They function as true community centers where people of all ages can gather safely. Munich's laws even protect the afternoon sun that hits these gardens. Developers can't build towers that block afternoon sun from beer garden seating areas. This seems silly until you realize Munich has lower social isolation rates than cities without public drinking spaces. Beer garden urbanism creates spaces where strangers become neighbors over shared tables. Munich maintains 2,500 trees within beer garden boundaries, creating urban forests that double as social infrastructure. Crime rates drop 60% in neighborhoods with beer gardens compared to areas without public gathering spaces. Melbourne turned abandoned laneways into the world's largest outdoor art gallery. The city has 200 kilometers of narrow alleys that most planners would ignore. Instead, Melbourne encouraged graffiti, opened tiny cafes, and created pedestrian-only zones in spaces barely wide enough for garbage trucks. Hosier Lane generates $500 million annually in tourism revenue from a street 100 meters long. The laneway culture employs 15,000 people in restaurants, galleries, and boutiques crammed into spaces smaller than suburban garages. Center Place fits 40 businesses in an area the size of a basketball court. Melbourne's planning code specifically protects laneways from vehicle access and requires ground floor activation. Street art is legally protected. Property owners need permits to paint over murals. The result? A city where getting lost feels like discovery rather than frustration. Small business survival rates in laneways exceed 85% compared to 60% on main streets because rent costs 1/3 the price while foot traffic remains high. Melbourne proves that cities work best when they embrace their leftover spaces rather than ignoring them. The laneway network handles 30% of the city's pedestrian traffic despite occupying only 5% of street area. Stockholm. By spreading across an archipelago of thousands of islands, Stockholm turned a geographic challenge into an urban advantage, connecting its main islands with over 300 bridges, making every neighborhood waterfront property. Stockholm's public transport includes ferries as regular service. Your MetroCard works on boats. The Gamla Stan Island houses 3,000 residents in a medieval quarter smaller than Central Park. Residents commute between islands on boats that run every 10 minutes during peak hours. Stockholm proves that fragmented geography creates intimacy rather than isolation when connected properly. Each island maintains distinct character: Södermalm for artists, Östermalm for wealth, Djurgården for recreation. The archipelago planning requires brutal honesty about density. Stockholm fits 950,000 people into spaces that would challenge Manhattan developers. Winter ferries break through ice to maintain service when roads would be impassable. Ferry ridership increases 15% annually as residents choose water routes over congested bridges. The archipelago generates $400 million in tourism revenue from visitors taking day trips between islands. Chicago. Chicago saved its lakefront from development in 1909 and created 31 kilometers of uninterrupted public beaches. The Burnham Plan declared that waterfront belongs to people, not commerce. Today, Grant Park alone hosts 25 million visitors annually in a space that could house 50,000 apartments. Chicago's lakefront generates $2 billion in tourism revenue while remaining completely free to access. The city banned buildings taller than 10 stories within 500 meters of Lake Michigan. Millennium Park cost $475 million, but increases downtown property values by $1.4 billion annually. The Bean sculpture attracts more visitors than the Statue of Liberty, proving that public art creates economic value. Chicago's architecture preserves 280 buildings from before 1940, while adding contemporary towers that respect the historic skyline. The Riverwalk transformation moved parking underground and created 1.25 miles of continuous waterfront dining and recreation. The lakefront path accommodates 100,000 cyclists and joggers daily without conflicts because separate lanes prevent pedestrian bike collisions. Chicago's beach volleyball courts host international tournaments that generate $50 million in hotel revenue during summer months. Lyon. Lyon climbed its hills instead of flattening them because the French understand that topography creates character. The city builds funicular railways rather than destroying geography for cars. Lyon's Croix-Rousse district sits 254 meters above the Rhone River and maintains 19th century silk-weaving architecture on slopes that would defeat most planners. The traboules, hidden passageways through buildings, create secret pedestrian routes that bypass traffic entirely. Lyon has 500 kilometers of hidden walkways connecting buildings across hills too steep for normal streets. The Old Town UNESCO site preserves Renaissance architecture on terrain that modern builders would consider unbuildable. Lyon's Part Dieu district accommodates 35,000 office workers on a hillside using underground shopping centers and elevated walkways. The city proves that vertical urbanism creates intimacy when designed for pedestrians rather than vehicles. 4 funicular lines carry 40,000 passengers daily up grades too steep for buses. Tourist revenue from the historic Silk Quarter generates $200 million annually because visitors can explore without climbing 300-meter elevation changes. The traboules attract 2 million tourists yearly who pay guides $25 per person to explore hidden passages that locals use for free daily commutes. London demolished highways to create King's Cross, turning Europe's largest urban regeneration project into a model for post-industrial cities worldwide. The 67-hectare site replaced coal yards and gasworks with 50,000 jobs in tech, arts, and education. Google's UK headquarters anchors a district where 45,000 people work within walking distance of 20,000 residents. The coal drops were converted into shopping areas instead of demolished, preserving industrial heritage while serving contemporary needs. King's Cross proves that brownfield sites create better neighborhoods than greenfield development when properly remediated. The project costs $4 billion, but generates $800 million annually in economic activity. Central St. Martin's Art School relocated here, creating a creative cluster that attracts global companies. The Regent's Canal provides waterfront dining and walking routes through the heart of the development. London learned that cities improve by building on their industrial past rather than erasing it. The development includes 2,000 apartments, with 40% designated as affordable housing, proving that regeneration can serve residents rather than just investors. King's Cross Station handles 50 million passengers annually, making it Europe's second busiest transport hub after Paris Gare du Nord. The district's innovation campus hosts 300 startups employing 15,000 people in former Victorian railway buildings. If you want more content with information and discussions about cities, subscribe. Which city surprised you most?